Chris Broad, abroad in Japan. I'm sure like most people who watch me probably know of both Connor and Chris because I think like the audience overlap is pretty big. So Chris went onto Connor's stream and he started ranting, right? In terms of YouTuber tier lists, Connor and Chris are up there in the S+ tier for me. Believe it or not, Chris is actually one of the people who got me to do on-camera bits for the main channel. Because I thought, like, the stuff he does with his little studio, I thought is really, really cool the way he incorporates it. So a lot of my inspiration has also come from Chris. So, you know, the end game of Koroto's Mystery Shack is to do a Latvia travel channel. I'm going to be the first guy to do it. Okay, let's watch it. So they're talking about Mr. Beast. The video is called Chris Broad rants to CDawgVA about how bad Mr. Beast actually is. Let's hear it. By the way, Connor got this massive monkey. I don't know where he got it, but I need one.
I want to see if you saw. Did you see the Mr. Beast thing where he rented out the theater to eat his Lunchables and watch the Talk Tour podcast?
What a fucking idiot.
Do you know Talk Tour? Do you know the Hawk Tour girl?
Yeah, I know. Gotta give me that Hawk Tour.
What did you think about Mr. Beast's generational fall-off?
What do you think first, Connor? Because I mean, anyone that thinks Mr. Beast is about anything other than making himself the richest YouTuber in the world has missed something. I've met his manager, Reed, 2 years ago. I had a video call. He's left him. His manager, Reed, a year or two ago.
Yeah.
He was nice enough, but they were very much like, how can you make us more money? And I was like, I mean, I like to make videos that are fun and educational. I'm like, yeah, but money. That's all we care about. And that day, after the call...
I do feel like this is a huge thing for Chris. He's talked about like multiple times that he misses like the old days of YouTube when it was more about creativity, and I do agree with him. I do think like the meta game of YouTube has massively shifted.
With Reed, I was going surfing with Felix.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you know, I'm actually going to see Felix in a minute. And they were like,
I just saw in the chat, someone in the chat said Chris cancelled speedrun.
Like, you know, we want to have Mr. Beast, Jimmy come over, and we're gonna have this we want to do like a handoff where like, you know, from one YouTuber to the next, to the top of their game. And I was like, this just sounds the most pretentious fucking shit I've ever heard. Oh yeah, great. And like, of course Felix wants that. Come on over.
To be fair, I think this happened with Smosh and PewDiePie. Felix. I'm pretty sure this happened. I might be wrong though, because I do remember there was some sort of joke about like handing off the crown.
And just, you know, hand some sort of weird trophy or something. I was just very lame. I remember talking to Felix. I was just like,
that was a very different time though, to be fair.
I mean,
is this all YouTube is now?
Yeah,
is it all just money?
Yeah,
is that...
mostly. Yeah, mostly.
And then he teamed up with Logan Paul, and that tells you what you need to know. Literally, he teamed up with Logan Paul, the biggest, can I say the C word?
Yeah.
Biggest fucking cunt there is, right? I mean, everybody seems to have forgotten what a massive cunt Logan Paul is.
Well, I mean,
right?
it's back.
If he's not filming somebody who's recently taken their own life, literally from a tree in the forest and making it about themselves, somebody who has exploited their viewers through cryptocurrency scams, and
yeah, like I remember that was, what year was that? Because the funniest thing about that, well, I say funny obviously in a very, you know, the funniest thing about that was that it was like January. It happened like right at the start of the year, and all the memes at that time were like, oh, we've already set a new record for like the worst thing ever to happen in a year, and it's just it was January 2018. Okay, yeah, it was January. Because I remember everyone was memeing about the fact that like the first big drama of YouTube happened like right at the start of January, and people were saying like, we're not beating it this year. Like, he's already done the worst thing. I have no idea how, like, we use the word brain rot now. I don't know how much your brain must have been rotted at that point to actually upload that. Number one, to film that. Number one, to edit that. Number three, to upload that. What is going on in your brain? This is a grown man. I think at that point, you're completely disassociated from reality.
Like, you know, you shouldn't be partnering with these sort of people.
Yeah, it is.
Was it 2016? I don't remember. Whatever the case. It doesn't change the fact that it was literally a grown man. That was not like a funny, goofy oversight. That is literally basic human decency. That is not something that expires. Like, that is genuinely something that I feel like if you've done it once, that tells so much about the kind of person you are. That's not a, I've made a grave lapse in my judgment. That is just disgusting.
It is an odd choice.
But I
He does
bet-
seem to like love Logan a lot, and business-wise.
But you and I know behind the scenes,
Yeah.
you know, you've heard bad things about Mr. Beast for years.
Yeah, you hear rumors. I've heard a lot of rumors.
Yeah,
But,
right?
like nothing that's like substantial. It's just more like.
And I don't think he's like he's pure evil or anything like that.
No.
I just think people need to look past the philanthropy, which is solely designed for his own benefit. It's a kind of
Yeah, so this is something that people debate a lot, right? And I've always held the belief, we talked about this with like a few of the older Mr. Beast videos too. Like obviously a lot of the stuff he does is only with the goal to benefit himself, right? Like obviously. But I've always thought about these things where it's kind of like, how much are you doing that? And how much of that still creates a positive outcome, right? So if he makes $100 million and $2 million of those dollars somehow ends up in charity, I don't care that you are being greedy about those $100 million that much, because you're still giving millions of dollars to charity, right? Like there has still been a positive outcome through this sort of not a transaction, but through this like manipulation, I guess, let's call it like that. It's not really manipulation, but let's go with it. So it's kind of like a give and take with all of these things, and I don't think like I'm definitely not in the camp of he's only doing it, like he's only doing charity to get rich himself, because sure, whatever, get rich, I don't care, good things are being done, that's like all that matters to me.
it's kind of like it's an incredible defensive system where you know, if you donate money and do some great things, and he has done great things, we can't deny that, if you can use that really as a sort of deterrent for any criticism.
What about the Boogie situation where he intentionally does charity for, hey, I'm a nice person now? Well, Boogie is a whole different case, I feel like, because I think with Mr. Beast, like, the impact of Mr. Beast is on a whole different level, right? Like, a lot of the stuff that he's done is genuinely, like, this should be a country doing these things, not a person. The stuff he's done is incredible, and there's, like, no two ways about it. And I feel like this is like another one of those situations where people have like very heavy cognitive dissonance, where they can say that like he's greedy and he does all these manipulative things, and then you say, but look at all the good things he's done, and people are like, well, thought he was bad, but now you're saying he's good. No, those things can't be true. And this is one of those situations where it really is there are positives and there are negatives in this outcome, and what he's doing is good. You know,
Then you're doing it for the wrong reason. The philanthropy it always feels like it's there as a barrier to stop any criticism, and now that has stopped working because people have seen past that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because like philanthropy is always a tough one, because obviously at the end of the day, it's still good, even if
Of course.
he's using it as a
exactly.
shield. You're like, all right, well, he's still doing it, you know. But it feels like it is being used as a tool in some senses, but it's so hard to distinguish when it is and it isn't. Right?
and this, by the way, is so depressing because I do feel like a lot of the stuff has now been sort of muddied, right? Like you can't do something good anymore because people will immediately say that you're only doing it for self-gain, right? Like literally. You can't do a single good thing without someone twisting it into you're only doing this for your own goals, right? Like for example, even something as simple as the type of content you make. You're not doing this because you like it. You're not. You're doing it just because it makes money. That's the only thing you want.
Right? Because like even if it is, it's like, well, it's still a good thing. It's hard to use that as a point like against him, but
I don't know. Like Jacksepticeye when he did the comment years ago. It was about a year ago now, wasn't it?
oh yeah.
A completely unrelated question. Do you like Mr. Beast?
No.
The funniest thing is that he doesn't even consider. He immediately no.
Do you think Mr. Beast ruined YouTube?
Yes.
Why?
Because it became more about views, money, and popularity than it did about having fun.
You know, and he was like, I hate how YouTube's about this and that. And then Mr. Beast went off on one, and they had to solve it.
My thoughts on that have sort of shifted though, because initially I was like kind of like it's a bit harsh, but the more time has passed, the more I think he just saw far further ahead than I did. Because initially I was just like, you know, times change. It's like it's no big deal. But the more I look back, the more I was like, yeah, I think Jack might have been right. I think he might have been right.
Apologize, but deep down, you know, Jack, that's what he really thinks. And recently, with recent events,
he's so mature and so chill. He was just like, I just don't want to deal with this. This is not what I wanted it to be.
and you can
But
tell
I think, you know, it's aged well. The clip's aged well.
it's aged very well. You know. But anyway, Yeah, and there's other things I could talk about this. Things I've seen, heard, read behind the scenes. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I've been waiting to say things a long time about that.
A good rule of thumb is that if you see a creator who seems like they have a lot of friends, they hang out with a lot of people, they're normally a bit more well-adjusted, I think. There's a certain group of people or creators that you interact with, and you're like, makes a lot of sense now why people didn't really hang out with them much.
What annoyed me, so remember the kid's blindness thing?
Oh, yeah.
Cured blindness, right? He cured blindness.
I know I'm laughing at that. It's just the thumbnail. The thumbnail is so demonic.
thumbnail
dilemma. Like, it's one of those things. On the one hand, brilliant. He, helped kids deal with blindness, which is really great. But I kind of, you can picture the meeting, having met his manager and talked to people behind it. You can picture that meeting, how it went in a room in North Carolina. We need to make more money. The team's got bigger. We need to increase our revenue by like 10%. Who's got some fucking awesome ideas out here? And they went, what if we do bomb?
I think the blindness thing was like the best example of what I mean by like, I literally couldn't care less what the thumbnail looked like because it was doing so much good, right? So like in a certain way, I'm like, yes, go ahead. Clickbait the hell out of that. Maximize retention on it. Do everything you can because you want to do more of that. You know,
bomb a truck and
it just really depends on when you look at the whole thing.
Any others? Cure blindness. We could like cure 100 kids blindness.
Yeah.
Fucking, that's the one. That's going to get the headlines. And that is how it's not like he read an article and went, man, this issue is really bad. If we could make a documentary covering this topic about blindness that could be cured, that's the way to tackle it. You can make a really well-made documentary.
I agree and disagree with us because I do think Chris is absolutely right that like a documentary is obviously a much better way to do it. However, I think going back to what I just said with like maximizing everything, the reason why that thumbnail exists is because it is deranged and it is maximized like clickability, right? So in this weird roundabout way, making a documentary that should have more impact and should be a better form to convey this would be a worse form to convey this because it wouldn't get as many eyes on it, right? And that's what I mean. All of this is like you need to look at the single situations, and then you need to zoom out and look at it as a holistic thing. And after this Lunchley thing, well, now things are sort of like, I don't know what the motivation behind that was.
He could cure blindness in 100 kids and still have the click-through rate that he demands, and actually cover the subject in a serious matter. And yet, it was not that. It was cure the blindness, done, got my money, here's the sponsor, well, hey, done. Money. Noble acts, no doubt about it. You can tell he doesn't really care. It's just, you turn up, make a quick video, back on a private jet to North Carolina.
Well, I think the reason why I don't like a lot of those is that it does feel like creatively like void as well. Like there's nothing, like there's no story being pursued.
There's no story.
There's just money, give, problem fixed, goodbye.
And you just see things happen, events that are impressive. Like, I bought $1 million yacht and I sat around it, I rented $1 million yacht or whatever. But you just feel nothing because there's no emotion, no story, no plot behind it. It's just things happening. And this is what I just hate it. I hate what YouTube's become.
Well,
but I realise the audience, the kids, mostly under 14, naive, don't understand.
You know, like the number one way you can just farm money in Japan. They're like the sleeper trains. And if you make a video where it's like I took the most expensive sleeper train, I think you will always get like an outlier video. People are obsessed with them. I don't know why. You just say you took like the $10,000 sleeper train or whatever, and people will watch it. It's really weird.
But I think they'll be eating Lunchley and they'll be drinking Prime, and the next generation is, for lack of a better word, fucked.
Yeah, I mean, there's some videos where I feel like he's done a decent job of like telling the story, but there's other times where I'm like, man, I feel like the need to have the video be about what you're doing and yourself is sometimes the thing that holds back the video, and it makes it kind of boring. I feel like there's so many interesting stories that other people have that you could show off if you gave them the time. But
I used to sort of respect him for the sense of the hard work and the grinding aspect of it, and I respect any creator who's done well on YouTube because often there's a lot of time, effort, thought has gone into that. But somewhere along the timeline, last year or two, the scales have tipped and it's all become a bit ugly.
It's also boring, which I feel like is the saddest part of this.
Yeah, I watched him.
It's so boring.
Drive a train off a cliff into a pit,
the worst one.
And he bombed it, and he blew up a tank, and you're just sitting there like, I don't care, man. Because at the core,
I think the biggest problem with that was the fact that they kept trying to one-up themselves. By the way, and this happens in fiction too. When you're constantly like every other story needs to be like bigger than the last. Of course, it's going to become boring because you've reached a point where nothing matters, right? Like, ironically, the obligatory Walking Dead mention from Koroto's Mystery Shack. This is what happened with The Walking Dead. if you just keep making things bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger for no reason, there will come a point where that sense of like grounded storytelling will be lost. And this happened with like his videos, I think, too. Because if you think about like the stunts he did back in the day, they were just over the top, but they were completely like normal, right? Like the one that popped off initially, him sitting in a room and saying the same word for like 100,000 times. It is absurd. You can think about sitting there and repeating it, right? But when you think about like driving a train into somewhere and there's a weird laser room where people need to dodge around, like what the hell even is that anymore? It's cool to look at, but it's not like
and the plot,
engaging.
and narrative, and him. It's just
not that sitting in a room and saying the same word is engaging, but you get what I mean.
there's the humor and the nothing. It's just boring. That's the future of the internet. So get ready, fasten your seatbelts. It's about to get a lot shitter. You know, I wouldn't have
like how
exploded
sad
about this,
he
but the
is.
day I saw Beast team up with Logan Paul,
God.
who, of course, you know, I was in
What do, you
Japan.
mean, what do you mean you don't want electrolytes in your kids' foods?
I was, you know,
Are you getting enough electrolytes? I think I'm concerned. Are you getting enough?
You weren't here the time he did the everything wrong in Japan thing, right?
I laughed. I was like, of course he did the go-karts. The go-karts that nobody likes.
The go-karts in
Oh my
Tokyo,
God.
because you see them.
Longest word in a
They go,
single take. I think I have.
everyone's having a lovely day in Shibuya. The
Uh-huh.
sun's shining, the birds are singing, hop, skip, and a jump, and then like,
Oh, they're everywhere.
and like
They're
8
everywhere.
dozen fucking go-karts come past. And of course, Mr. Beast wasn't the first person.
If you listen to the Abroad in Japan podcast, you will have heard Chris rant about these go-karts like 10 times. He really doesn't like them.
Oh, no.
Do the go-karts, but he popularized it, and now they're unstoppable. And everyone in Tokyo hates it.
It's so annoying because it's like there's so much cooler shit you could have done.
Yeah.
And you picked the one thing that was lame.
It's not just annoying though, it's literally very dangerous. Like, it's not going to end well. And it doesn't end well. Crashing into taxi drivers, crashing into my favourite fish and chip shop in Roppongi.
Oh yeah, they did do that. They did crash into the fish and chip shop.
Cunts.
Forgot about that.
Fuck. But yeah, hopefully there's no blowback from saying things.
Oh no, I don't think so. And if
I mean, this is at a point where everyone is talking about it, so it's not like Connor and I are ranting about it.
I'm okay with burning my Lunchly sponsor opportunity.
Well, you won't be in a Mr. Beast video now, will you?
No, I won't.
Well,
get
that's your
invited.
biggest dream. You know, my favorite thing about Mr. Beast is how in every interview he's like, we literally put all our money back into investing in content. He makes that like he's a genius businessman.
Yeah.
Everybody does that. Everybody invests their revenue back into producing things. That's not like, he's not a normal businessman. Like, oh, I've got an idea. Let's put our revenue and profit
Name
into...
one business that doesn't.
Everyone
do
does
yeah.
it. Everyone.
Actually, Nintendo doesn't.
Nintendo doesn't.
Yeah, Nintendo does. Nintendo's
They
the
just
most
sue people,
cash-rich
like-
company
Too
in
busy
Japan.
taking down YouTubers for using their music.
Well, you know, I'm just glad we have like a comic book villain to all rally behind that we all really dislike on YouTube. It's good to have
And
someone.
he's partnered with the biggest YouTuber on the platform.
It is an odd choice that he seemed to
Oh, yeah.
go with it.
I think his
it is
PR
what it
team would have
is.
been like,
yeah,
hey,
don't do this.
Jimmy bro,
Don't
maybe
do
we
this.
shouldn't, like, given all the terrible things that have been happening these last 6 months.
Yeah, like,
we should partner with the guy
I
who
think considering Jimmy was supposed to be like the golden boy of YouTube and now partnering with Logan Paul, who literally has some of the worst reputation on the entire platform, it wasn't on my 2024 bingo.
No, I'll just make a lunchbox with him. I'll make a lunchbox with his piece of shit drink that's so bad senators in the US have sort of wondered about banning it. Fucking
Yeah, it's not
caffeinated
ideal, is it?
prime
It's
shit.
not ideal.
Oh, anyway, I'm off to watch the Talk to podcast.
Incredible. I mean, yeah. I'll link it in chat. This whole... Has he already watched it? Incredible. Like the whole Mr. Beast thing. Oh, here's Dr. Mike talking about it. Like this whole thing, it feels like so much happens so quickly, but none of it is ever seen like a return. Like the Amazon thing, he's being sued for that. And this whole Lunchly thing, I've heard things that like apparently is going to be looked at. Chris just mentioned something about the senators also looking at it. So I guess they're going to look at the nutritional stuff there too. I'm not sure, because the electrolytes are absurd. It's absurd. It's so bad. And like people always pull the whole like well, it's in stores, right? And it doesn't matter because it's already in stores. Why is he so bad if he's selling it? The problem is like well, number one, the target audience. Number two, people should criticize the stores too. You know? Like, you can't just say, person A has made a bad thing, but oh, look at person B, they've also made a bad thing. Person A is now totally valid in making the bad thing. No. No. It's like, who was it? Who made the, was it Tommy in it? I think it was him. I'm pretty sure it was. I think Tommy in it made a meme about this. Yeah, there we go. So he made a meme about this where he is selling like a vape thing. And this is exactly what I mean. Like, this is a joke, by the way. Like, obviously, like, oh, what do you mean? Cigarettes exist. So should Mr. Beast now sell cigarettes because they already exist? No. No, he should be rightfully roasted for that. What do you mean? It's absurd. I have no idea how people even can say this. And kids don't need electrolytes. They're not going to like the gym. They don't need electrolytes, especially in that concentration. Like, what do you mean? That was so bad. Electrolytes are a good thing in moderation. I mean, yeah, but they're you know, there's too much of them. I mean, it's always funny hearing Chris just rant about these things because I know he cares a lot. He's talked about this for a very, very, very long time. So I'm glad that he got to, you know, sit down and rant about it. I do feel like Chris's content and Connor's content too, is like still some of the most like pure content on the platform, if that makes sense. Even though it's like hyper polished, right? I think like both things are true at the same time in that sense, because I do feel like a lot of the stuff they make is just, they're clearly interested in it. It's clearly just for the sake of conveying a message. I'm pretty sure Chris is doing another documentary now or some sort. I think I remember him talking about that. Powerade and Gatorade are electrolyte drinks too, but not as egregious. Yeah, and well, to be fair, I don't know like all the US regulations because we just literally that doesn't fly here. Like, that doesn't fly at all here. I'm pretty sure like just about the only drinks you can get in schools now are juice boxes, which are also much more regulated than the US, and water. I think like school food is massively regulated, and like small classes, like the younger kids, they can't go to the store to like get whatever they want. That's just not something you can do, unless I think your parents just give you food to take with you to school, right? Like, obviously then you can, but in terms of like the stuff you can actually get in the school and in the school's vicinity, all of these things are heavily regulated, and they're regulated because they're meant to protect them. You don't need electrolytes when you're 6 years old, or 7 years old, or even 12 years old. Well, you do, but definitely not that many.